Back now at 8:18, His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama is the spiritual leader of the Tibetan people. Born to a farming family in northeastern Tibet, he was enthroned as the Dalai Lama when he was just 4 years old. He has won the Nobel Peace Prize for his message of compassion, peace, nonviolence, and happiness during his travels to more than 62 countries on 6 continents. And this morning, we are touched to have him bring his message to our studio in his first live morning show interview ever. Your Holiness, good morning.
Good morning.
You have spent your entire life bringing this message of compassion, of tolerance, of forgiveness, and contentment to people all over the world. But today, people all over the world, including here in America, are experiencing so many difficulties: a bad economy, war, disaster, the oil spill. So many things are plaguing the spirits of people. How can we find contentment in this world at this time with so many difficulties?
Basically, these problems are temporary.
These problems are temporary.
We human beings, basically more, gentle nature.
We have a gentle nature.
And also we have the creativity nature there. So these problems, of course, some problem, nature disaster. That is something a little different. But many other problems, which essentially man-made problem, our own creation. So logically, we also have the ability to overcome these problems.
Of course we want to overcome these problems. Yes.
I think general atmosphere on this planet, I think last 2 centuries or 1 century, we are not acting with true human spirit. I think sometimes we too much sort of stress on the superficial level, and short-sightedness. Due to that, a lot of problems happen. Now what we learned, now we must think holistic way, broad way, and long term. I think this is just the beginning of 21st century. I think compare 21st century and the 20th century, even within 20th century, early part of 20th century, later part of 20th century, much change. These change not come from sky, but come through human experience. And we're becoming more realistic. So now, 21st century, I think there is every reason this 21st century will be much happier, much peaceful, much compassionate century than the 20th century. This I'm quite sure. But you see, everything depends on our own sort of action. The positive action. In order to carry positive action, we must develop here a positive vision and sincere motivation. And our conduct should be open, honest, truthful, transparent. Then I think many problems can reduce. This is my feeling.
You're saying that if we are honest and truthful and find it within ourselves to have generous lives, you're saying that the problems that we're having in the world today won't be here, and this will end. The suffering won't be as difficult.
Can reduce.
Can reduce.
Can reduce. That's certain. Many man-made problem. If we develop certain kind of sort of right attitude and realistic method, many of these our own sort of created problem certainly eliminate, and if not, reduce. That's certain.
But you said just now that is not always true for when there is a natural disaster. And you yourself have been tested. You know, there was just this last April a terrible earthquake in Tibet, in the place where you were born, and you could not return. Thousands were killed. You could not return to help people. So how do you handle the sadness in you when you cannot do what you want to do?
I always, whenever I saw some problem, some tragedy, I always remember one advice from one ancient Indian Buddhist master. a tragedy happen, then think, analyze the situation. If there is a way to overcome that, then no need worry. If there is anyway no way to overcome that suffering, that tragedy, then no use to worry.
So you're saying...
but however, I think not like 20th century. Now like the tsunami problem and also the serious earthquake in Haiti and Chile, and now the last, I think 2 years ago in Sichuan area, and now this year recently in Kigudo area, response from the rest of the world is immense. I think in the 20th century or early part of the world, early part of the time, I don't think the suffering, just the people you see carrying the suffering, no one take care. Now you see completely different.
So are you saying
sort
that
of situation.
humankind...
These are positive signs.
So you're saying humankind is becoming more compassionate?
Yes, certainly.
So the state of humankind today, are we getting worse or are we getting better as a people? What would you say? Is
better, no question. Some mischievous, handful mischievous people always there. I think last several thousand years it remained that, and for future also, you see, some handful mischievous people always there. But problem is, you see, the news or media, I think including your sort of media, you see, usually you see the highlight, you see, these negative things.
Difficulties.
Then these positive things, you see, usually we take for granted. So, not news, so not come.
Your Holiness,
this is my feeling.
Your Holiness, you have been a major factor in if the world and the humankind is getting better. A lot is owed to you. Thank you so much for being here this morning and for joining us. And I know that you'll be leading 3 days of teachings at Radio City Music Hall to continue to spread your message. Thank you so much
for
joining us
Thank
this
you.
morning. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
After your local news.